We use even the crappy pollsters. Our philosophy is that instead of trying to draw sharp lines, say, oh, you're in or you're out, instead there are grades that are assigned to pollsters based on how accurate they've been in the past and also their methodology. The tricky thing with public policy polling is that they achieve that accuracy in part by looking at what everyone else does and then kind of tweaking their assumptions to engineer that result. So it might cause us to rethink the way that we're scoring and weighting different polling firms to prevent that hack, in essence, it is. So I mean, I think in general, one of the principles I would say is don't be ad hoc. So you say, well, PPP is doing something which we think is quite indefensible, but is it just a case of, oh, let's kind of throw out PPP? No, kind of let's think about the broader principle. I'm sure other polling firms do this to some degree as well, where there's herding behavior. But I don't know. I mean, the bigger question about kind of, I don't know. I back in the kind of initial iteration of 538, I felt like I spent a lot of time playing like polling Policeman, and I don't want to do that exactly. I do think it's important to take kind of a bigger picture view. It's very kind of labor intensive and small ball to get in a dispute with one polling firm, for example, when first of all, when you average these polls out and debias them in different ways, then that kind of, those problems can resolve themselves anyway, at least in terms of your forecast, but also there are big stories to cover, so getting too much into the weeds, I'm not sure about, but I don't know. I mean, it will certainly affect the tone by which I cover PPP. I mean, one ironic thing about them is they were, in some ways, fairly transparent, and it looked like they knew what they were doing until some writers and journalists began to ask them good questions, and they kind of revealed themselves to be rather either incompetent or uncaring about what the philosophy and the science behind polling really is. So I don't know. It's a tricky case, and I don't. I'm not generous to polling firms that I think are doing a bad job being unscientific, but we still do include them in the model because we have, I think, a robust way to handle those marginal cases.